Hey, I am Kristen Howerton.
Hi, I'm Paul Martin. Hi.
And we are friends from opposite sides of the political spectrum, trying to have a weekly conversation about politics in a respectful way.
Yes.
So there is a lot to talk about this week.
Yes, there's a lot.
Where to start? The debates last night.
Yeah.
So that just happened. That was a shit show.
Yeah. And they keep saying that, the last debate was full of fireworks.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing this morning that, they just keep getting nastier and more heated and heated and heated. And it was, you saw it. I mean, it was an all-out brawl, right?
It was. I mean, it got to the point where I felt like Wolf was like going to walk off. I mean, they weren't respecting him. Right. They were talking over each other.
Right. Yeah, there's never been something, a debate is uncivil or a primary season is uncivil. I mean, the level of assaults were historic, and we're going to continue this for months.
And really lacking in respect. And I mean, we could just talk all day long about just Trump. Like, this could just become like a Trump, we hate Trump series, but which I want to talk about, especially given that you're a Republican.
I hate Trump series. Yeah.
I know, right?
Another series.
But he was so disrespectful last night, and he called Cruz, what did he call him? Like, he called him a name.
Yeah.
Like, you're a basket case.
Yeah.
But the techniques he was using, like, as I'm watching him, I mean, he's using the techniques of like an abuser.
Yeah. In
his arguing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just classic ad hominem attacks. Rubio really went after him and said, "Hey, stop attacking. Let's talk policy. What's your plan?"
Yes.
But Trump doesn't really understand the process enough to have a plan.
Right.
And so he just repeatedly attacks people.
Himself. Yeah.
And that's how the masses, unfortunately today, play into ad hominem attacks.
I agree. And, as much as I thought the debate was a mess, I did think Rubio stood up for himself.
Yeah.
I think he went neck and neck with Trump.
Yeah.
He seemed to be enjoying himself. Rubio looked gleeful.
Yeah, he was giddy. And I don't, you never know if I'm sure it's a technique. These are he's a lawyer, these are incredibly seasoned individuals, but it was a different kind of approach than Jeb or Ted, who get angry and you could just see them. I mean, Rubio just seemed like a kid having as much fun as he could have. He
did. And here's another thing that Trump did that, I feel like, as a therapist, I'm watching this as like, when you've watched people who manipulate or control other people, Cruz and he are arguing, and he says, calm down. Why don't you calm down?
Right.
You're a basket case. Like, diminishing, dismissing, acting like the other person's crazy.
Right.
But Rubio, I mean, I think he was glib because he knew that he was taking him down.
Right.
I mean, he had a good argument.
Right. He had a great argument, and going after Trump and saying, explain your plan.
Yeah.
And then you see Trump, because he doesn't really understand the issues. He just doesn't. Everyone knows that. And so he goes into this, Rubio challenges him, and he says, well, we're going to draw these lines around the states. And Rubio says, what's your plan? And Trump, again, he doesn't understand the issues. And so he again says, we're going to draw lines around the state and increase competition.
Yeah.
And Rubio again hammers back and says, what's your plan?
Yeah.
And Trump then says, well, we're going to have all kinds of plans. And so now you have Trump repeating himself, going after Rubio for repeating himself 4 weeks earlier.
Yes.
And it was one of the most, I don't know how Trump comes out of this. I do know how he comes out of it on top, because his followers they're not really thinking that he was as absurdly illogical in that exchange as a human being could possibly be. He had no plan. He just kept repeating himself. But his followers just seemed to grin and think, he's my man.
So I have to say, this week, I feel that the fear around Trump reached a fever pitch. And I'm noticing this from my conservative friends on Facebook. Numerous people this week posting, guys, like, we've got to quell this. We've got to be serious. I mean, even Matt Walsh, who's a conservative blogger who I typically disagree with on all points, is saying, what's happening? What are we going to do? So what are you guys going to do? What do you do?
And I think even the phrase "you guys," that is the problem, because Trump has come into this party, and you have the establishment, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean from George Will on the right to, I'm talking about pundits, to David Brooks in the center, and everybody in between saying, this man has hijacked our party. And I think that's the key over the weeks that we continue this.
Yeah.
Trump has hijacked the Republican Party. There's absolutely no question about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
He is not winning the endorsements of anybody from Bush to change. I mean, you can just look at the entire establishment, and he has hijacked it. And interestingly, what he's doing now, and we have a difference of opinion on this one, but he's endorsing Planned Parenthood, and you could see the strategy there, because he's now appealing to people on the far left who are angry with Washington and everything as well. It's very calculated. And to see someone who poses himself as a far right-wing conservative endorsing Planned Parenthood, there's remarkable strategy there. It's kind of a new party almost. This party
I feel like Planned Parenthood and the Republican Party are so diametrically opposed.
Right.
I mean, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense, but he's calculated, and what many are thinking is he's garnering the votes of people on the left that are just, they're tired of Hillary, they're just tired of the whole thing. And now there's this guy who's a sexy billionaire, celebrity, you know, he's crass, he's married to the supermodel, he's had all these marriages. I mean, he's kind of he's a big time celebrity, and now he's starting to say to them, and hey, I'm my own man, I support Planned Parenthood, it's a great organization. Some Democrats are starting to vote for Trump.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I really can't imagine. It's crazy.
It is.
Well, here's another demographic that's really coming out for Trump, the white supremacists.
Yeah.
So we got a quote from David Duke this week.
Right. And, you know, maybe 5 months ago, 6 months ago, people thought, oh, come on, he's not a racist. You know, this is ridiculous. And Duke came out and said, you know, he said David Duke was the grand wizard of the KKK. He is a white supremacist.
Yes.
By definition.
Yes.
And he came out and said to his group, his followers, his white supremacist followers, that not voting for Trump would be treason against your heritage. So just break that down. Heritage meaning white.
Right.
And treason meaning bring the white power back.
Yeah.
Bring this ideology back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned this in a previous episode, but, you know, I was harassed by white supremacists.
That's right.
For a bit, and all of them, when I would click over the profile, were huge Trump fans.
Right.
Huge Trump fans. So, yeah. I mean, race has become an interesting topic in this election, I feel like, more than any election previously, because you've got, you know, what I feel like is a big race problem with Trump, and then Hillary was checked this week by some Black Lives Matter activists.
What happened there? I missed that one.
She was giving a speech, and an activist came and held up a sign of one of us. It was a soundbite from a talk she gave about fighting the war on gangs. So, you know, back when Clinton was in power, there was a lot of coded language around the war on drugs to insinuate that it was really a war on black people who do drugs. You know, we had a major difference in convictions in terms of whether it was cocaine use, which tends to be a white drug, versus crack, which tended at that time to be, you know, used more by inner city blacks. And so there was a lot of inherent racism, systemic racism, not, you know, white supremacist like, you know, using the N-word racism, but systemic racism of penalizing people who were from a certain demographic in the Clinton administration. So she was sort of parroting that language in a speech and said about gangs, these are kids who are super predators, they have no empathy, and we need to bring them to heel. So kind of dehumanizing.
Right.
And so they were demanding her to answer for that.
Interesting.
And she got very defensive, and they removed the girl from the room, put their hands all over her, and removed her from the room. And then Hillary went on to not address it.
Interesting. And Hillary's on her way to becoming the nominee. I mean, Sanders is fighting hard, but the polls and you know, with Super Tuesday coming up point to her, you know, finally being coronated the Democratic nominee for the first time, something she's wanted for many years. And at the same time, the New York Times yesterday wrote a column. There was a column in the New York Times calling her to release the transcripts for the many speeches she's given to big banks, where she received tens of millions of dollars for these speeches. Yeah. And she's under such pressure between the emails and that. How she's able to navigate this is truly remarkable to me.
Yeah, and I think, that had to have been uncomfortable for her. She did later still go back in a separate interview and address that and apologize for the use of those words, but it was very cryptic. But I don't think she's really owned that she was a part of this sort of systemic racism back in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Using coded language around
Yeah.
black people. And then, on the other hand, you've got photos emerging this week of Bernie Sanders being arrested at age 22.
Right.
For protesting segregation, which to me, it's like, this is a guy who's been walking the walk the whole time.
Right. And
not because it's advantageous.
And if pictures are worth 1,000 words, that was a remarkable picture.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not just being arrested, he's kicking.
Yeah.
He's being held by 2 officers, and I believe 2 officers, but kicking and being pulled away.
Yeah.
Way back when it really mattered, back in those days.
Yeah, at a young age. What else?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that what's intriguing to me is just how Trump's candidacy has come about because of really a perfect storm. And, namely having so many candidates to start.
Yeah.
Without these candidates, without the division of votes, Trump would never be where he is.
I agree.
And you have Cruz, who will not go out of the race because Cruz started campaigning for president the day he was elected to the Senate. That's no secret.
Yeah.
He has always campaigned to be president. Rubio, why would he leave the race? He's rising.
Yeah.
What really kind of pisses me off is John Kasich. And
really?
I was watching him.
But you like him?
Well, I thought I did.
Okay.
Little announcement here.
Okay.
What intrigues me about John Kasich? A couple of things. I mean, I think he's by far the most experienced, and I think he's genuinely a good guy.
Yeah.
But what strikes me are a couple of quick things. First, he has been apparently touted as Trump's running mate. Now, how substantial and true that is, I don't know. But there are some pundits thinking that he would be Trump's running mate.
Okay.
But secondly, and more importantly, he's kind of rising above the fray by not being negative. Mm-hmm. But, to be negative against Trump is a huge political risk. It's one that Rubio avoided until last night. Mm-hmm. It's one that Jeb avoided. It is a risk to stand up to Trump's racism, to his ideology, to his hate, to all of the things that he represents.
Yeah.
It's a risk to your candidacy, and Kasich isn't doing it. So I just sat there thinking, if you are such a man of integrity, and if you are this amazing leader, and Trump is just all over the map, people were laughing at the absurdity of the things that he says. If Kasich's this man of integrity, why doesn't he say, I have to be honest, Donald, your rhetoric, your anger, your ad hominem attacks, but he won't do that.
Because he's hedging his bets for a seat.
He's hedging his bets for a seat, or he's hoping that somehow some miracle could happen and he can come out of it. But I'm not a big fan. I think, as a Republican, with someone like Trump coming in and hijacking my party, I know that sounds a little bit whiny, but that's how many of us feel.
I
think it's the duty of these candidates to stand up and say, enough is enough. Trump last night said...
Pick one.
Yeah, pick one. Right. And Trump's tax issue, his tax returns came up last night. It was a huge deal.
Yes.
This will become a huge deal because, he's hiding them. Yeah. And when he had the interview after the debate with Chris Cuomo, he said that I think the IRS is coming after me because I'm a Christian.
Right. Okay. I mean, I feel like this is the most evangelical he's ever been in relation to his tax returns. Right. Ironically, I have not been audited for being a Christian. How about you?
No. And what's remarkable is he was saying, no other billionaires get audited but me. And then again, that alone would seem
absurd.
Like a red flag.
Of course, every billionaire is being audited.
And number two, he could still release his returns.
Right.
But he has something to hide.
Yeah.
And one thing he has to hide is he's not worth as much as he says he's worth.
Yeah.
But, it would be embarrassing, and he would be releasing these returns if it wouldn't be embarrassing or perhaps a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But again, his constituency are not going to care. They don't care what he does or says or is.
I'm having a little light bulb moment, though, about something you said earlier, which is the Republican Party really does have to rally around one nominee.
Yeah.
These two, or however many are left, but I feel like Rubio and Cruz are kind of the front runner. Somebody needs to appoint the guy, and everyone else needs to drop.
Yeah.
And so that everyone can rally around. So let me ask you this: 2 questions.
Yep.
One, I want to know which guy you think would be the best candidate for the party. But then 2, I want to know personally which one you think is the best, and I'm curious if it's the same.
That's a tough question. I mean, I definitely don't think Ben Carson is qualified. I mean,
Yeah.
every time that guy talks, I just wanted to. I literally, like, when he talked, I would go get another glass of wine. It's just he just drums
drink,
on and
take a
on.
shot.
Or drink,
Yeah.
whiskey. I think was the drink of choice during that debate. So, not Carson. Kasich, I think, is remarkably qualified. He is qualified.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little skeptical about why, if he's such a decent man, if he's such a truthful leader, why he wouldn't just say, "Look, honestly, Donald, you're belligerent on the stage," but he won't say anything. So I would have to say Rubio for me. Certainly not Cruz. Cruz, for many reasons, to me, is a non-starter. I would say Rubio or Kasich. I'm a moderate Republican, and so just by definition of that, Carson, whatever Trump is, I don't know, and Cruz are kind of non-starters for me.
So do you think that Rubio would be the candidate for the party?
Yeah, I do. And right now, the RNC, the Republican National Convention Committee, is trying to find this one candidate to go up against Trump. But the problem is these guys won't drop out.
Yeah.
If today Cruz, Kasich, and Carson dropped out, the big question is, can Trump get more than the 30% that he's gotten in these primaries? He hasn't gotten more than 35%.
It's him and then a giant split vote.
And
the split vote could be winning.
Yeah, and I don't think Trump would do well at all in a one-on-one debate with anyone on the stage except for Carson. Cruz and Rubio and Kasich would have him for lunch.
I agree.
Because ultimately, Trump doesn't even know what the issues are.
No.
Rubio pointed that out yesterday.
Yeah.
He said, "Tell me your plan."
Yeah.
Trump doesn't have a plan.
I think Rubio and Trump in a debate would be interesting, and I think Rubio would really take him down.
Yeah. So in the weeks ahead, the big question is going to be, and the big thing now is, why did Rubio wait so long? 3 or 4 months ago, why were these people not attacking Trump? And on the street right now, the theory is it's too late. It's too late to mount this 11th hour attack. We'll see though, because the super PACs, can spend millions and millions of dollars with negative advertising against Trump, which they really haven't yet.
True.
And so I think the gloves have yet to come off.
I think you're right, and it's time. Come on, somebody do something.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got, what do we have coming up? Super Tuesday is...
Yeah, this coming Tuesday,
Sheesh.
March 1st.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
And Trump's poised to win in many of the states.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's going to be interesting. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week.
And we, this is going to be an interesting conversation, because eventually we are going to get down to...
Yeah.
I mean, if this becomes Trump against Hillary, make for some interesting dialogue.
Definitely. And he's such a misogynist, I don't think he'll be able to rein that in.
Women are voting for him.
Ladies, get your life. Okay. Thanks for joining us. Hit us up in the comments. This will be posted on both of our blogs shortly, and we would love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are.